Hey guys, what's going on? Paul here, back with another Cardano focused live stream, and great to be joined once again by Farid from Dapp Central. I'm sure everybody watching is pretty familiar with Farid at this point. Link in the description to his channel, just in case you're not. Everyone tuning in, very welcome. Saturday evening here for me. I think morning time for Farid in the US. Very welcome, Farid. Thanks for joining in with me.
Yeah, my pleasure to be here, Paul. It's always an awesome time jumping on the channel, chatting with you. Thank you to all the viewers for tuning in. I'm excited for everything that we're going to be breaking down.
Yeah, looking forward to getting into it. And we got on the call a few minutes ago, and I was saying I didn't actually have much of an agenda, but then we started talking about a few things. It's like, oh yeah, there's a lot of different things to cover from the Cardano Summit. Congratulations on your award at the Summit. Really, really well deserved for everything you put in over the last, I suppose, year, nearly 2 years into your content on Cardano. I follow it. Some of the stuff you put out lately, especially around Midnight, which we'll get into, is really, really valuable stuff. And anyone tuning in, if you've got questions, got topics you want to drive the conversation here towards, we generally keep these fairly laid back discussion between us with input from you guys, answering questions. And I always learn something new when we get into these. So anyone coming in, subscribe, share it out, give it a like, leave your questions below, and let's jump into the first topic, I suppose, of Cardano Summit. What was your experience of being there on the ground? Unfortunately, I didn't get out to Dubai this year, but definitely a lot of FOMO sitting at home.
Yeah, no, first and foremost, thank you for the kind words there about the award. Shout out to yourself and all the other content creators that have also put in tons of time and tons of effort. Seeing how much time it takes, and being recognized for that, I definitely appreciate it. But I realize that there's also other people doing just as much, if not more than myself. So I also want to give kudos to all the other contributors when it comes to that. Now, focusing on the actual summit, what an experience, Paul. I think you attended last year in Lausanne, Switzerland. I saw some of your interviews there that you did. This was my first summit. I missed the one in Lausanne, Switzerland, and I'm kind of bummed out that I missed it now, because after having attended, I'm just like, wow, what an awesome time. Really all around, I'll maybe just kind of start with the Cardano specific stuff and then maybe just kind of extrapolate out into just Dubai, generally speaking. But when it comes to Cardano, number one, the speakers. So obviously we had head honcho Charles, we had his entire entourage. We heard from Tim Harrison, we heard from Aaron Barak about Midnight, and just all of the prominent figures within the Cardano ecosystem. What was really cool was also to see the presence of Emergo as well. We had Narendra, head of the Emergo Academy. We had Nikhil, we had Amar, some really key players when it comes to Emergo. And then I believe there were also some representatives, for example, like Frederick Regard from the CF for Cardano Foundation as well. So I think generally speaking, a lot of really cool people that we've heard about. We've covered their updates and their contributions here. So to be able to actually sit down with them, shake their hands and speak with them was a really cool experience. Now, on top of that, there were also builders, right? So I would just want to kind of highlight a couple of them that stood out to me. I think Mehen, bringing their fiat-backed stablecoin, which I'm sure we'll talk about here in just a minute. They had their own booth there. I got to meet Yarrick from Axo Trade, obviously a very familiar face within the Twitter universe, and of course after the Axo Trade testnet. But to actually sit down with him, Max Power, and some of the other members there from the team was also a really cool experience. There were also a few other teams, again, just a lengthy list. But to add to that, what I really enjoyed about the summit was the fact that for content creators, they had a specific area for us to actually sit down and conduct interviews. So that was really awesome. I've actually got some interviews coming out there. I was able to sit down with Temujin Louis, who is the VP of marketing from the One Chain Bridge. They brought in USDT, USDC, and DAI into the ecosystem not too long ago. So that was a really interesting interview. I was able to kind of press them a little bit on the security of the bridge and just the decentralized nature of what they're building. I sat down with Matt Ploman to bring some of the details about USDM launching. That interview is going to be coming out very soon. I sat down with Dr. Lars Brunez and Dikemba from Genius Yield, and also even got to touch base with, let's see here, it was Florian and Alex from the Noom project. So overall, really awesome experience. Got to meet so many builders, so many contributors to the space. And then maybe just closing this out here, we'll just Dubai, a beautiful country to say the least, very forward thinking, super high tech. All of the videos and things that I'd seen about Dubai coming into this were really kind of actualized, right? So being able to just go out, enjoy the city, explore the city, to see how thriving it is and how crypto friendly it was really an awesome experience. And then the gala dinner at the Burj Khalifa really topped it off there with a really awesome dining experience, the gala awards, and just a super nice way to kind of close out the entire evening with a nice little soiree for the Cardano community. So for anybody who didn't get to attend, I would definitely say try to attend next year. I know it's definitely pricey, but it was definitely worth it for me. The amount of people I was able to meet, network, and just kind of chat with was definitely more than I expected. So overall, a great experience.
Yeah, at CF, they really showed this year that they know how to throw a party. When you look at what they done last year in Switzerland, it was a brilliant experience to be there and meet so many people and the parties and everything that went on. And from the looks of it this year, they stepped it up even another notch this year, setting Cardano on fire. Mixed reactions on that one in the desert. Were you at the desert part or the desert dinner?
I was not. So I actually had some hangups there on the way to Dubai. And so there were some delays on my end to where I came in like right as that was ending. And so I was able to enjoy the full portion of day number 2. But that was actually one of the pieces that I really, really kind of feel like I got some FOMO onto, was the desert experience. You know, watching everybody ride their camel, enjoy their dinner in the desert. And like you mentioned there, Cardano being on fire at the end.
Yeah, I think the biggest thing that I got from last year was I missed lots of the presentations in Switzerland last year. I got to some of them, but for me, it was about the networking, getting to sit down and talk to different people that it's very hard to get them when you're trying to get them over Twitter or over something else. So it was great to be able to meet people in person, and some on camera, some off camera, just to make the connections. And it's very hard to beat that in-person connection. Like I've talked to a lot of different projects in interviews or talk to them over Twitter, Telegram, Discord, whatever. But the ones you've actually met in person, there's always that stronger connection, and it's a lot easier to talk to them because you've a fair idea who the person is when you meet them in real life. So real life outside of the digital world. So a few things you touched on there. Midnight, we might come to that in a few minutes, and with Charles's presentation and Aaron coming on then and talking about it. With USDM, that's one I'm really excited for. A fiat-backed stablecoin is something that really has been missing in Cardano for the last while. Like when you look across other blockchains, then stablecoin pairs are always the biggest trading volume. That's where a lot of people are trading in and out of. We do have IUSD, we have ZED, but you look at the IUSD peg. I don't actually know. I haven't looked in the last day or two, but it was about 90 cents the last time I looked. ZED, we were unable to mint it there for maybe 3 months. It's only with the recent rise in price that you can start minting it again. So the actual Shen incentives there, just in a bear market, there just isn't enough there to incentivize people to mint Shen that then allows people to mint ZED. With USDM being fiat backed, people have reservations about fiat backed, but for me, it's something that's really, really needed in the community. And when you were talking to them, was there anything about how it's going to be bootstrapped? Or I think that's a big question out there right now, is how much liquidity can be brought in initially. So the setup they have is really, really good. The next step for me is how we get the liquidity in there that can be used by the community.
Yeah, I maybe just want to leave some of that for the interview. I think that the team is obviously still, kind of working through some of
Well, we
those
need
pieces.
leaks here.
I don't
No,
want
I
to jump the
understand.
gun. I don't want to jump the gun, but I really like the approach that they're taking, really trying to be homegrown. And I think you may have actually have covered this as well, but they're going through an equity sort of process where they're actually selling portions of the Mehen protocol to the community, right? Which is going to be a part of that bootstrapping process for them as well. It's basically going to be a way for them to fundraise capital, but then also, allow for early investors to be rewarded for taking a look at what they have to offer. So I'm actually going to be coming out with the full video breaking down the entire process of their crowdfunding approach through, I believe it's called WeFund or WeFunder. But to that end, what really interests me is just how much attention they're going to be getting, right? So I released a video not too long ago. I believe right now there's a total of about 25 to $30 million in terms of stablecoin. Obviously, we've got JED, we've got IUSD, and then now we're going to get Mehen into the picture here. I think that this is a really big opportunity for them, especially after what happened with the pausing of USDA. So I think they're really set up really nicely. But as you mentioned, it's just a matter of the initial liquidity, people actually minting in those first early states, and then bringing on the Mehen token onto the network for everybody else to use. So I'm going to be keeping an eye out just as much as you are. And I'm hopeful that, if, for example, there's low interest, which I'm hoping there's not, of course, right? But if there's low interest from just the average investor who is able to mint, that the Mehen team is able to kind of step in and hopefully kind of provide that initial bit of liquidity to get things rolling. Because I definitely think that once the assets are on chain or on the network, that, they're flowing freely, that there will be a lot of people looking to jump into something like that. And again, I think the fact that they are going to be fiat backed kind of removes a little bit of the risk that we've seen and some of the concerns that we've seen with other types of backing that or other types of backing mechanisms that we've seen come online so far. So again, I'll leave a little bit of that question for the interview, but I'm really happy to see that, this is finally coming off the ground. I remember interviewing Steve Fisher and Matt Plowman last year at Rare Evo, and not a lot of people knew about them at the time. But to now show up at this event, and they're kind of like rock stars now, where everybody was at the booth, everybody wanted to chat to them, and a lot of really big investors, obviously that's their personal conversations to be had, seem to be interested in what they were doing. So I think that they are poised to make a lot of noise and a lot of adoption, especially given how early stable coins are within Cardano.
Yeah, I think one thing I really liked as well when I talked to them was they were saying that they were using the same bank as USDC. And that would mean that people are able to move their USDC from Ethereum or from other chains through the bank into Cardano, and it would be minted in the form of USDM. And with what they're doing with the oracles, with Charlie 3, being able to check the bank account and that controls the minting contract, I really like the approach they're doing, trying to bring as much transparency into the mix as possible, because that's always a question with the fiat-backed stablecoins is yes, they're supposed to be backed by fiat, but is it really? And there does be questions around that. And just because we mentioned IUSD, Tizo mentions here, IBTC does not track the actual price of Bitcoin. And I think a reason for this is a lot of people will mint it. They will use their ADA to mint the IBTC or IUSD. And then what they do is they take that and just go and sell that on the market and use the funds for something else. So if they think there's another asset that's going to outperform, they use that in the market to try and earn extra, because you're not paying interest with the ADA you use as collateral. So you're able to get extra funds to use in the market. And it comes down to the demand and supply. So a lot of times there isn't enough demand for buying the IBTC that people are trying to sell, because a lot of people are using the strategy of taking their ADA, using that as collateral to get the IUSD or the IBTC, sell it off and use the whatever else they buy, whether they use that, they get ADA for that or whatever else they use. And then it's really putting a bit of pressure on the actual price as there's more demand and more utility maybe for the likes of IUSD or IBTC. I think if we get more stable coins into the mix, that will help the peg there for the likes of IUSD too, because when we start to get, if we have stable swap pairs of the two against each other, and there's more reason for people to buy up the IUSD token to bring the price of it back up closer to $1 with synthetics or with algorithmic stablecoins like JED, because you have fees for minting and burning at the contract, they will never sit exactly on $1 like you will with a fiat-backed. With a fiat-backed, if I can ever buy it below $1, then I can go to the bank and I can or go to the source, which is the bank for fiat-backed, and I can just cash it in for $1. And then I could use that to buy something else. So you can always, that's what keeps the peg there. If it ever goes above $1, then there's no reason for anyone to buy it, because it's actually only worth $1 if someone takes it to the bank to cash it in, where the synthetics and the algorithmic ones, they just move with the markets. What else have I got here? Yeah, no worries, Tizo. Rocky, good to see you.
Yeah, and if I could just add to what you were just going to say, I think you did a really good job of explaining that, and that's what I was mentioning there. I think a fiat-backed stablecoins removes a little bit of that risk. Obviously, there's an opportunity there to be had for people that are doing what you just mentioned, there, right? Putting their ADA in a CDP, taking the Bitcoin, and then selling it off for whatever other asset they want. But keep in mind that while there is upside potential to that, there's also downside, right? If there is, for example, some sort of issue with the underlying collateral, there is a potential for them to also get liquidated as well. So I would definitely just say that, while it is a good opportunity, definitely make sure that you understand what you're doing. Otherwise, you could end up in a bad situation.
Yeah, definitely. And when you see how fast the markets can move, then you have to be careful when you are over collateralizing your assets. I've seen one new proposal going in for Indigo where they want to move up the over collateralization, the rate on it to I think 150, and that will be done per epoch if it passes. I don't know, is it at 110 or 120 at the minute? So that will mean people have to over collateralize it even more when they're actually taking it out. So there's a little bit less incentive to take it out if you're long. But let's see, what else have we got? Never too early for a whiskey. No, it's a whiskey glass, but it's actually just vitamin C. So bit healthier for this evening, even though it is 5 o'clock. But I have an interview later on with Danny to talk all about Catalyst and the changes that are coming in there, and I have a bit more work to do tonight. So can't start the whiskey just yet. Hey, what's up, Clover? Good to see you coming in. Cardano swaps protocol. Is that the peer-to-peer one that I just seen something about it today being put an update on it today? I bookmarked it, but didn't get to read it. So I'll probably have to cover that in another video. I don't know if you got to look into it, Farid.
I did not, but I'm interested now, so I'll be doing the same thing, and maybe we can give our initial thoughts here, but definitely, take that with a grain of salt because this will be my first time looking at it as well.
Yeah, from what I've seen, it's peer-to-peer swaps, so there's no need for a DEX in the middle or smart contracts, and I'm reluctant to go any further into it because I haven't done the full research on it, but it's definitely one I need to. I have the bookmark saved. I just didn't get to do it yet. And for anyone else interested in it, I can put the link to it down below if you want to check that one out.
Yeah, that reminds me of Trading 10, I think is what it was called, right? Where it was a peer-to-peer style platform where you're able to just, like you said, have no middleman in between. Which I think kind of has its own territories, especially when you don't want to deal with, for example, a platform like JPEG in the middle, or when you're just familiar with the other party that you're trading with. So I think it's got some utility. My only concern with that is, like, especially when it comes to trading CNTs, right? Setting the value of the actual trade. So I'm wondering how that is done. Again, I haven't taken a look at the platform itself, but it'll be really interesting to see exactly how they get people to agree on a price that they're trading upon moving forward. So really interesting concept. I'll be doing my due diligence here after this live stream.
Yeah, I just threw it up on another screen there, just bullet points, and it's like limit swaps. So you can have your basic limit swap, which are one-way, and then two-way swaps, but I won't get into it here because sometimes people will take what's said here as what it actually is, and I could pick something up wrong in it, but I'll definitely cover it, and I'm sure you're going to cover it in some of the upcoming videos too. But definitely worth checking out for anyone who's interested. Actually, I'll just show you the tweet so people know which screen have I got here. The joys of being live and trying to do it. And yeah, so this is the one here for people. I'm nearly sure this is the one, Clover Nodes, that you were talking about. And I see that's what happens when I share my screen. It stops my camera, so I'll restart that now in a second. But this is the one here. You can see the refresher that he gives here is there's full asset custody, including full delegation and voting rights. So something similar that, like, when you use your ADA for collateral in Indigo, the ADA still remains delegated to your stake pool. You still earn rewards. You can still vote with it. Native composability with all existing dApps. High availability guarantee. 2 types of swaps. So basic limit order, two-way swap, bidirectional limit orders, enabling market makers to provide liquidity without relying on yield farming. So this one here is one I'm looking. I'm interested in looking into that and seeing how that works and what's the rewards for the market makers to come in and get involved in that. Is it just straight arbitrage where they could arbitrage with this versus other dexes, or if there's something else? What is this the one you were thinking of, Farid?
Yeah, I think that's it, and I think Clover just confirmed as well that that is the one. Yeah, just a lot of questions coming from myself initially, so I'm definitely going to dive into this one and see, what are the benefits and could this potentially give some challenge to the established dexes that we have, right? What's
Mhm.
interesting lately is we've seen platforms now kind of shifting towards a quote unquote pro model, right? We've got Axo coming along, they've got basic and advanced. We've got MinSwap announcing V2 with MinSwap Pro, and then we've got Wing Riders saying that they're also going to bring a pro feature to the platform. So let's see if something like this could potentially give their or those pro platforms a run for their money. But it's always really good to see new types of ideas come to the market.
Yeah, definitely is, and it kind of fits with the trend of Cardano and going towards decentralization, full ownership. Like when you use a DEX, you are using their smart contracts, and there's some potential, right? Look, anytime funds leave your wallet to sit anywhere else in another smart contract or anything, it always brings a small bit of risk. That's why we have audits, and the space is definitely getting interesting. When you look at what Axotrade brought out on their testnet, you said you got to meet Yarrick actually at the summit, which I'm sure was a good experience. I got to meet him in Lausanne last year. Only got to talk to him literally for a few minutes because he was running off to another interview at the time. But MinSwap V2, that has some features that I'm really looking forward to seeing. And I think every other DEX needs to step up their game now when you look at what Axotrade are going to be bringing out. And MinSwap definitely they definitely look like they're not going to fade away when you look at some of the stuff that they're trying to bring up. And the routing of trades is something I think there's a lot of people looking for that on Cardano, where you can move your assets from, so you don't have to have a liquidity pool for every asset. Like I have World Mobile, I want to swap it for Iagon. At the minute, I have to do two trades myself, but with the hops or the routing, you can get the DEX will be able to do that for you. It's what you have if you look at the likes of PancakeSwap or Uniswap or other ecosystems, they use a similar model. So that's what I'm looking forward to finding or to getting onto Cardano too. Let's see, what else have we missed before we move on? Thoughts on, I don't know what that one is. New ETP ETF across the pond. I know I seen someone reshared something from 2021 in the last few days saying about it was a new ETP for Cardano, but it was a year or 2 years old. I don't know if that's it. I can't remember the name off the top of my head. Doesn't ring any bells to you, Farid, does it?
No, it does not. And I did see a very similar tweet floating across my my Twitter thread as well. But as you mentioned, I think it's somewhat outdated information. So it would be nice to start to see some chat around that, though. There's been a lot of chat, of course, around the Bitcoin ETF and Ethereum. Be nice to see Cardano get some love. And I see a comment there about Crypto Crow. Shout out to him. He released a very similar video to the one that I did about explaining Midnight. And he was very, very passionate about it. And so just to see other creators that not just focus on Cardano really kind of beginning to catch on, I think has really been interesting, and myself included. I think that Charles's live stream was really valuable one. And I really try to plug that in here. Now, I'll probably just plug it in here for anybody who hasn't been watching Charles's whiteboard videos or just Charles's live streams. Definitely go ahead and check those out. The last few have made a ton of things click for myself.
Yeah. I'd say the majority of people in Cardano at some point, if you're here for more than 2-3 months, you've probably seen some form of a Charles whiteboard video at some point. He definitely likes to pull them out. And even when I've seen people from other chains looking at the Cardano Summit and saying, why was he on a whiteboard? Why wasn't it a big proper projection screen? And it's just, that fits Charles. That's what you expect from Charles when he's given a keynote like that or explaining something. And on Crypto Crow, yeah, Crypto Crow is a really good guy. I think I was watching him. He's one of the first people that I watched that explained different aspects of Cardano. I think back in 2017, early 2018, I was probably watching Crypto Crow. And one of the reasons that I started to go deeper down the Cardano rabbit hole. So what else have I missed? So Wisdom Tree ETP. I will look that up after. I'm taking notes as well as timestamps here. That was Roki was spreading the misinformation there. So we'll forgive you this time. Our both stake pools, both of our pools taking part in the Midnight airdrop. As far as I've seen, the airdrop is going to be for everybody. It doesn't matter what stake pool you're in. So if you see people saying you have to move to this pool or that pool to get the airdrop, I think the initial airdrop will be for everyone. Obviously, if that changes, we will let you know. And from running a node in the Midnight network, personally, I do plan to run one. I'll let Farid take over from there for himself.
Yeah, no, I definitely want to be a part of that. Again, my idea surrounding Midnight has completely 180'd in the past couple of days. Again, a lot of that though was due to not having the full picture. And so as Paul mentioned, I think that early airdrop will be for the entire community, any ADA holder, at least that's what Aaron Barak mentioned at the summit. And then if you want to continue to earn the rewards, then yeah, you'll have to stake to an operator. And I am definitely aiming to do that. One thing that I've learned, especially with my recent chat with Aaron, is the fact that this not only introduces an opportunity to earn dust, but it opens up an opportunity for us to just have new revenue mechanisms for any additional partner chains that come on. So I actually see a comment there by MossLars38. I'm not sure if you can pull that up, Paul, but this, I think, really kind of hits on what he's asking about, right? Regarding the partner chain model. So I think the partner chain model basically puts Cardano as the backbone to multiple or numerous services, right? Moving forward, with Midnight just being one of the first ones. So right now, if you were to delegate once Midnight goes live to an SPO that is a piece of that backbone or that provides security to that service, then yeah, you would earn ADA from your traditional ADA rewards, but then you'd also earn whatever that reward token is anytime that a block is minted from Midnight. Now, as we get more partners, right? Let's say that we get 5 or 6 other partners. Imagine now earning 5 or 6 different tokens by staking to one single SPO. What this almost reminds me of is the current iSPO model that we have right now in Cardano, where, for example, if let's just say Cornucopias is having their ISPO and you delegate to my pool, maybe a percentage of your ADA reward is taken in exchange for Copy. But with this brand new partner model, right, as the ADA rewards continue to diminish, there's now going to be a new opportunity and a new incentive for SPOs to come online. So again, after hearing about this new partner chain model, it's really kind of reinforced the fact that this is actually here to benefit Cardano, not to take anything away. And if anything, it's going to draw more delegators as well as more stake pool operators to come into Cardano, because they now have the opportunity to not only provide security to Cardano, but any other service that they want to collaborate with or that they personally believe in order to earn those rewards. And then to even take it one step further, and I'll turn it back over to you, Paul. Imagine, some of these services not only relying on Cardano, but now also relying on potentially other networks to provide them their security. So I think that this really puts Cardano at the very bottom, at the very base layer, if I should say, because Cardano is going to be the first partner or the first security provider, I should say, to these partner chains. But you can imagine that as this model grows, tons of additional partner chains coming online, and Cardano being the very first somewhat security provider to all those partner chains. And so, yeah, I mean, again, listen to Charles's talk. It has changed my mindset and my idea surrounding what Midnight is going to be bringing. And Midnight is really just a test case for this brand new service model approach. If you think about, what we have now with services, for example, I mentioned this in my video, Netflix, Amazon, these are all platforms where you're paying monthly recurring amount for the service, right? And it's going to be a very similar model to what Cardano is going to be doing in Midnight. So I'm excited for that and just seeing the brand new opportunities that come along for SPOs and delegators alike.
Yeah, it's I think a lot of people's opinions on it are starting to change. Initially, there was excitement. Then there was people worried about, when we only got a small bit of information at the summit, I think. Big Pay done a really good interview with Charles and Aaron first to tease a bit more information out of it, and then the breakdown that Charles done there. And there's more videos I think going to be coming out on it. So we're kind of getting drip fed bits of information. I think Charles even said that he will be doing more videos, more live streams on it, talking about it, taking questions to give the answers, and hopefully we get some form of a light paper fairly soon so we can look at more of the intricacies. I know from when Big Pay had the interview, I don't know, was it with Aaron or Charles, and he asked about the rewards that are paid to SPOs that will go through the SPO to go to people that are delegated there. Will the rewards be different based on the amount of stake in the pool? And I think things like that aren't fully worked out yet. So would a pool that's fully saturated get the same amount of Dust token as a pool that only has 1 million ADA, or how they're going to work things like that? I think it's more positive, as you say there, than it initially might have looked, or people were getting worried about. And Midnight, lots of hints, this is just the first one. One big thing I'm wondering about is, will this replace sidechains? So there was a big push on the Cardano, the sidechain toolkit that came out probably 5-6 months ago now. At this point, we got the first version of that. And it's been a bit quiet on that. So I'm wondering, will the idea of partner chains replace that now? Or I don't know if you have info on that or have any thoughts on it.
Yeah, that's actually, I think, a really good question. I think I have the same kind of thought about it as well. I know that early one had more of a focus on EVM, if I'm not mistaken, right? So maybe, it still has some use cases, and maybe it speeds development up when it comes to potentially like converting what they've already built up for that sidechain SDK and then applying some of that stuff into partner chains. But I think partner chains is definitely bigger than just what was kind of being worked on with the SDK, in the sense that, as Charles mentioned in his prior video, partner chains will basically be their own blockchains, their own tokenomics, their own consensus model, just a lot of things that probably were going to be restricted within that SDK, at least early on. Again, what I saw from that was that was going to be mainly focused on EVM compatibility. And to hear that the partner chains is bigger than that, or pushes beyond that, I think offers more use cases and more of an opportunity. So hopefully it isn't something that's just kind of put to the side. Hopefully they're able to kind of pluck maybe some things that they've learned from the development of that SDK and also apply that to the partner chain model. But overall speaking, man, I mean, this has just been a lot of really exciting things to hear about, and a lot of new opportunities, again, not just for SPOs, but I think for delegators alike, which have really been the backbone of all of this, right? Without the delegators to the SPOs, things aren't able to function. So to kind of put aside all the FUD that we've heard before, after speaking and hearing, from Aaron and Charles, my mindset has completely been changed when it comes to Midnight and the partner chain model.
Yeah, I think you touched on it there when you started talking about Midnight as well, was the staking rewards on Cardano, and how, so having partner chains and being able to get extra tokens for that for delegators, overall, that's really good for the Cardano security, because it's going to encourage more people to start staking. Right now, if you look at staking rewards, they're probably around 3%, sometimes a bit below that. If there's a really good epoch, then you might get a bit above that. I know when I started staking first, it was above 5% was the staking rewards, but due to the way the rewards work and the amount that gets released, then that number is going down. Every single epoch, the rewards get slightly smaller, because there's a certain portion taken out of, I always mix up, it's not the treasury, there's another one. There's part of the funds go to the treasury. So there's 20% of whatever's taken in transaction fees in an epoch, that goes into a pot. There's also funds taken out of the initial allocation. That goes into the pot. 20% of that goes to the treasury, which is what Catalyst pulls from and what will be used for. Voltaire will vote on what them funds are used for. And the other 80% goes to delegators. But the pot that it keeps pulling out of, that was the initially set aside ADA, that's getting slightly smaller every epoch. And right now, transaction fees, we have low transaction fees on Cardano, which is great for sending your transactions, but it also means that we're not gathering huge amounts of transaction fees every epoch to share with delegators. So the transactions on Cardano would need to go through the roof. I think next bull market, they're going to go way, way higher. But I don't think even if they went to the chain's full capacity right now, we would still be making enough to keep staking rewards where they are. So new additions like this will really help incentivize people to stake, because they're going to be earning a bit more. And overall, there's that aspect, as well as some of the other additions that it can bring to Cardano, because not everything needs to be on the layer one. It's nice to have lots of different aspects on the layer one, but some things I see someone mentioned there, like the likes of USDM or Meld, or you look at World Mobile, things like that could be running on another chain and having the security from Cardano and rewarding Cardano delegators, ADA holders for being a part of that. And trying to see what else did I miss. So Roadmix asked about Midnight airdrop if you're staking in an ISPO. That I don't know. I don't know if they will even have thought that one through yet, because if you're in an ISPO, you're going to be losing 100%. Well, not losing, you are giving up 100% of your rewards for the token. It's it'll be interesting to see how they do that one actually. It'll probably be, if I was looking at it, I would say it would be more on the initial airdrop anyway, would be a snapshot of the chain. So what ADA do you have in your wallet? And that's how you get the initial distribution. But for ongoing, if you're in an ISPO, I would imagine you're giving up whatever rewards that stake pool earns during that one. Any thoughts on that or different opinion?
Yeah, no, I mean, I feel like I don't want to say anything here because again, we just don't have the answers. But as you just kind of touched on there, it can get very tricky very quickly. And I think that's exactly why Aaron and Charles have not mentioned a lot about the airdrop. They've been focusing more on educating as opposed to focusing on the airdrop, because they know, the airdrop is what gets people excited, but it's not going to be something that is going to, take your portfolio to the moon, right? This is just an introduction, just a way to kind of kickstart the engine here when it comes to Midnight. So I don't want to overemphasize the airdrop. Obviously, something that we're all excited about, but I definitely want to say that, without speaking too much further on it, there's so many ways that this could go that I think that IOG, the entire Midnight team, they're taking their time before releasing anything, because they definitely understand some of these complexities that we're seeing here in the live chat in the comments.
Yeah, there's definitely lots of intricacies that need to be worked out. And like you touched on there, I would say to people, have low expectations of what you're going to get in the airdrop, and be surprised or be happily surprised about what you get if it's more, rather than expecting something big. Because to me, I'm expecting something small just to get people interested in Midnight and holding some dust, and to bring more, to just distribute the token initially to a lot of different holders. I'm not expecting them to double my portfolio or even give me 10% of my portfolio extra overnight just for holding ADA. I would expect the ADA price will probably take a decent run up in the charts. Not financial advice, anything like that. Always have to put that in. My expectation on it would be that you will have a run up in the chart leading up to this. As soon as the snapshot happens, then it's probably going to drop off after that, with people trying to get in for the snapshot. If you look across any other chain that has done something like this, I think XRP had the Flare airdrop and they had snapshots and similar there. And there's probably countless other ones out there too. So if any questions in the comments, Farid, jump out at you, just shout and we can bring them up. Just on the sidechains, Kraken. So Kraken did put out something about looking to build their own layer 2. And I know Charles responded with, this is something we could look at. And look, if that actually came to fruition, that would be really, really good for Cardano. It would be very good for, I suppose, it reinforced the belief in Cardano and what they actually have. If a powerhouse like Kraken decided to build and interact, even if it was a partner chain rather than a direct layer 2 for Cardano or anything like that. But it would be massive if it happened. I don't think there's any serious suggestions yet on who they would be choosing or what they'd be doing. Or have you seen anything on that one?
I haven't, but I was able to kind of pick Charles's brain about this one. So he mentioned that he and Jesse, I think, go back. He's like one of his closest friends in terms of just how long he's been in the space, right? So I think he said they go back like 12th 13 or something of that nature. So he's obviously got a really good relationship with him when it comes to that, right? So not to speculate, but I think this would really bring a ton of credibility to Cardano in the sense that it would be the first unbiased sidechain launching, right? Because again, there's super close ties between Midnight and IOG and Cardano, but to get somebody like Kraken who has no dog in the fight to actually come on, utilize the partner chain model and kick something off, it'd be really interesting to hear their thoughts about it and just what they think about the actual service model moving forward. So I think that this is a really good opportunity. Obviously, Charles is going to do whatever he can within his power to get things, to come along and to come our way. But yeah, I think it's something that we're just going to have to wait and see. I don't think that it's going to happen overnight with any of these big players coming in to build out their own networks. They've got to be methodical. They've already got an audience, so they can't just slap something together and just throw it out there, right? So I think it's not going to be something that we're going to hear probably for a couple of months about if something does happen. But obviously, we're all here rooting for Cardano to get that shot and to get that opportunity.
Yeah, definitely. And Jesse is one of the real OGs in the space and has done a lot of good for the cryptocurrency space overall. Kraken, still, if I'm doing a fiat on off ramp, Kraken is still my go-to for that. Has been since I think 2017. I opened my account with them and generally using them. It's sometimes I've even had the same day for a withdrawal or deposit, and it's generally the next day if not. And here's a good one. Year of the Corn. When are we going to be racing?
That's a great one, man. We just got the green light for us to start sharing content. I see Steve Korn pops in there. Maybe we can also loop him into some of our races, but I'm happy, man. I'll take it easy on you for the first couple of races. I know you still got some catching up to do. But yeah, I'm more than happy to start streaming some Cornucopias content. That team has been really
Nice.
killing it. They've been knocking it out the park. I think that they did some recent upgrades in terms of their Unreal Engine. And yeah, finally getting racing into the community's hands has really been a blast. I got to check it out at a Rare Evo, excuse me, not Rare Evo, NFTLV, and I really enjoyed that. So to see how much progress this team has made has really been eye-opening, and just their attention to detail continues to blow me away.
Yeah, definitely. I've only tried a handful of races so far, but we definitely have to set something up. Rob has said he will join in, but he's had a lot of practice now at this point. So I'm away a few nights next week with the family, but the following week, maybe we can look at setting up a stream with some racing and that, and see who else we can pull into that race too. What was it gonna? I let my kids actually have a game of it there last week, and they loved it too. They were counting how many times they blew up. So it was whoever blew up the least amount of times. With the damage is a nice aspect on it too. It makes it better, because some games you see you're just bouncing off the sides and it has no impact. So it's good to see that. And I know they will be bringing that into the game at a later point too. At the minute, you can jump down off heights, but they've shared some leaks that could be interesting how they're going to work that. And you have to get your car repaired and different things like that. So I'm looking forward to seeing what they do. And they continue to push forward. Like you mentioned there, updates recently was moving to UE, I think 5.3. They were upgrading a lot of their graphics too. They were on 5.1, so they got to skip 5.2 and go to 5.3. But if Steve is in the comments, he'll be able to correct me on that one. Let me see, did I miss? So let me go back to the comments and keep going down here. Where was I? And anyone with questions or directions you want to fire us into, just throw them in. These streams are laid back. Farid's channel is in the description for anyone joining in later. Give this one a like, share it out, leave comments. We do appreciate it. The more we get, the better tailored the conversation is to what people want to hear. And let me see what I have here. Incentivization aspect of incoming projects is great to ensure stewardship. Yeah, so I think that's going back to what we were saying about helping with people staking on Cardano and what they can earn. And Midnight is for large institutions, and why the ZK is embedded and allows to effectively run. Yeah, I think Midnight, even if it wasn't on Cardano, the idea of the chain is very good in having the dual token, having the ledger that can be a shielded ledger and a public ledger, because not everybody wants their transactions to be seen. So it's like if I go in and say I owe Farid something and I send him some ADA right now, then he knows the address that came from. If he plugs that address into any of the block explorers, he can see what's connected to that address. He can see all the wallets that's connected to that. And this isn't just Cardano. This is Bitcoin, Ethereum, the majority of cryptos out there. So there's definitely a use case for having shielded transactions in that they're not visible to public block explorers. But if something happens, like, don't like talking about government and things like that, but if you ever have to reveal your transactions to the likes of the IRS, then you can give them the key or whatever it is to see the whole history of the transactions. But to the normal everyday user, they can't track your transactions just because they have your wallet address. They can't see everything that happens. So that idea is definitely something that has a big use case out there.
Yeah, and I think that gives even more credibility, again, not just to Midnight, but the partner chain model, right? So imagine, other ecosystems kind of realizing this kind of flaw within the current system and saying, okay, hey, well, we want to maybe adopt something very similar. Maybe we want to, go ahead and adopt some of the ideologies behind what Midnight is building. I really think, again, that Midnight is poised to make a huge difference, not just within Cardano, but any potential other applications that begin to use the services coming in from Midnight. So I think that the privacy aspect has been something that has been overlooked. And to that end, I just maybe want to quickly shout out another project that recently made a pretty big announcement surrounding privacy building here directly on Cardano. So that's going to be the ENCOINS team, right? So that's going to be run by Vlad. And I think Diego was actually here in the comments earlier as well. So shout out to him. He's, I believe, their community manager, but their ENCOINS platform, right, basically focusing on a very similar idea to what Midnight is building, is going to be coming online, I believe, on the mainnet on the 30th of this month or of November. So the very practical example that Paul just gave there, where you maybe want to send an asset to somebody, but you don't want anybody else to know where that came from, ENCOINS solves that directly on Cardano as a Cardano native project. Now, Midnight is going to be aiming to solve that, but instead of doing it directly on Cardano, they'll be doing that as their own service or on the service layer. And so I think that, yeah, this has been a use case that I didn't even really think about. People coming into crypto always just tout transparency, but yeah, sometimes you want to take a shower with the curtains closed. You don't always want everything exposed, and so I think that projects like this are needed, and I think they're really going to open up this idea to the broader crypto space that privacy, when done right, can actually be beneficial.
Yeah, I wasn't expecting that comment about the shower, but yeah, and just to touch on ENCOINS, it's definitely, I need to try and catch up with Vlad before the launch. Had him on the channel a while back, and I'm excited to see what they bring out onto the mainnet now and bringing some privacy aspects into Cardano. And won't go any deeper here, but you said the date there, 30th of November, was it? I think you said that there. Yep. So anyone interested in that, make sure you check out their socials and stay up to date on it. I'm sure both of us here will be talking lots about it coming up to the launch and doing tutorials on how you can get involved in it if you want to take advantage of it. How long development time for partner chains? I don't know. I think it's kind of like how long is a piece of string in terms of partner chains in general. Some chains could be built up very quick. Some could take a long time. In terms of Midnight, I personally wouldn't expect anything until Q2 of next year. And that might be that'll be me being a bit optimistic. Maybe it comes quicker, but I haven't seen anything yet on a mainnet timeline. The developers, what are we, the 18th now? The developers started to get on to the DevNet 2 days ago. So maybe we'll get some feedback from them in the next week or so and get some more concrete timelines, or unless Farid has some leaks for us or insights.
No leaks in terms of timelines. Again, I think Charles and Aaron have done a really good job of keeping those close to their chest. And again, I think it's because in crypto, people just tend to get burned when they put out any dates. As you mentioned, the DevNet just launched. When I did speak with them early on before the announcement of the DevNet, they had 1,000 or so applications. And in the matter of just like the last 3 or maybe 4 days now. That has now jumped all the way up to about 15. And I think they were closing in on 1,600 or so applications. So now that the actual DevNet is out, I think they're starting to see a lot more traction, a lot more excitement, and people just interested in actually coming on. And it hasn't just been from people within Cardano, even people outside of Cardano now applying, because again, Midnight is aiming to be more than just Cardano, even though they're using Cardano early on for the security aspect of things. So one thing I would like to say is that just when looking at development, generally speaking, things tend to get easier over time. And so my hope is that, Midnight will probably be the one that takes the longest to set up. But as they learn and they get a perspective and they're able to go back and do retrospective work, they can then see, okay, hey, maybe we can package this up. Maybe we can package that up, simplify this and simplify that. And that way the next partner chain that comes on doesn't have to run through the same exact hurdles as Midnight. So I would say that, like Paul said, maybe Q2, Q3 of next year for Midnight to really come on the mainnet. But then hopefully future iterations of partner chains coming on are able to be spun up much faster. And over time, that process to launch new partner chains gets easier overall.
Yeah, and I think even building on Midnight, I've seen TypeScript mentioned. So that's a very common language for people to know how to building. So it should be very easy can be for builders, for developers to get involved and build on top of it. It's one that you should have no shortage of people being able to build on it. If you look at just what you were saying there about it gets easier over time, you look at trying to build on Cardano, say 2 years ago, was an absolute nightmare. Even building a year ago, building smart contracts or anything on Cardano was a bit of a nightmare and very tough for projects building. They were using the early versions of Plutus. It didn't really have the developer tools and around it. So they were the pioneers trying to build. I know lots of teams that spent maybe a year building and had to scrap a lot of what they had when they seen what Icon was able to come out and how easily you could build in that. So you look at the developer experience now versus 1-2 years ago, it's night and day. And I think, like you said there, partner chains will be the same, that as people build the first ones, get better iterations of the tooling around it, then things will get a lot better going forward. Question here on the Chainlink CCIP and Cardano's CASL. I am not familiar with the Chainlink CCIP, so I can't comment on that one. I don't know if that's in your field, Farid, or...
That is not, unfortunately.
Sorry, Roadmix. We will have to... I'll take a note on it, but won't start guessing answers here. Steve says, dust being the fuel for Midnight. Not sure that having a stack of dust means much until there are tons and tons of transactions to consume that fuel. So yeah, it's the airdrop initially, I think, is about putting the token in people's hands, getting it out there, getting a bit of excitement, pulling people into the chain too to use it, because if they have the token, then they want to keep more up to date with what it is. It's like if you have a token in your portfolio, there's a lot more chance you're going to pay attention to what's going on with it. But it's one, I'll get it, I'll hold it, see where it goes. And there will be interactions between that and the second token. So Dust won't be the fuel token, Farid, will it? Or is Dust the...
So this was one of the key questions that I posed to Aaron. So for the longest...
If you don't want to leak that here, we can let people go to your interview whenever it comes out.
Yeah, no, I mean, I think this is one piece. And again, a lot of this has really been trying to just get clear information. So what I've gathered as a part of my latest interview is that Dust will actually be the token on the Midnight ledger. So this entire time, people have been talking about Dust being a Cardano native token and that being given over to the Cardano community. After my last chat, and again, I'll let you draw your own conclusion, I don't think that is the case. And it actually makes sense now. So they've been focusing on the fuel token, but they haven't been focusing or talking about what the Cardano ADA holders are actually going to get as the Cardano native token, or the token that is rewarded anytime that a block is minted on the service layer. So that was a piece that I made sure to ask yesterday, because again, I was confused thinking that Dust was going to be the reward that is constantly given out to the ADA holders. But after speaking with the team at Midnight, that is not going to be the case. So I did then follow up with another question saying, well, you guys have mentioned the dual token model, but we only have heard about Dust, which is now known as the fuel token. So can you share any more information about the other token that is going to not be the token on the service layer? And of course, that was shut down. They're keeping, again, a lot of that information super close because they don't want to have that speculation, which makes sense. So again, I think to set expectations, let's maybe just focus more or less just about understanding, the service layer, not necessarily the airdrop. But from what I've gathered so far, Steve is right. The dust token will be the fuel that resides on the Midnight ledger.
Okay, and there will be, I know what Charles said, part of his video was there will be a token that will be a Cardano native asset that is used as the reward. I think that's for the likes of us being a part of the Midnight network, helping support it, and then delegators of ours will earn the token. Like that, there's still lots of moving pieces that need to be ironed out yet, or at least released to us. Maybe they have some of this already behind the scenes. So we're coming up on the hour. Any questions people have, throw them in. Farid, if there's any topics you wanted to cover that we didn't, we jumped into the questions and started taking lots of them. But I think there was lots of different stuff there. I see Steve said that 5.3.2 is incoming. I think I've seen another comment saying that it is on internal testing at the minute, which is good. David, I hope you're keeping well. Do you think Cardano can compete with other chains like Solana, Injective, Matic in terms of speed in the future, realistic basis? Because I think Cardano's hindrance is speed. I definitely think Cardano needs more focus on the scalability in the shorter time frame. Longer time frame, we're going to have things like input endorsers, which will allow more blocks more often. Charles has taught, but they will be like, you still have your one main block that settles the transactions, but you have blocks in between that you can have a load of different transactions in them. And then you have the one block that finalizes them all. Charles has referenced about they are looking at improvements to finality, which to me, I think really is the big one, is how quickly your transactions get settled. One thing that, one of the questions I have for him whenever I get to talk to him is about, can we change the block time right now? So would there be much work to change it? At the minute, we get a block every 20 seconds. With the network, that's generally shared out with everyone within 5 seconds. So is there scope to bring that down to 15-second blocks or even 10-second blocks? Or what is the knock-on effect of that? I think like increasing the block size, things like that could be massive wins if it's possible, because if you bring it down to even 15 seconds, then you're getting an extra block in. Then is that what? So you get an extra block every minute or roughly. So you're starting to get faster finality on your transactions because every 15 seconds you have the new block, and then you can fit more and more into them because you have more blocks. But thoughts on speed, speed versus other chains, Farid?
Yeah, I think I completely agree with what you said. From the recent chats, it does seem like with governance on the way that there could be the potential for the community to get to vote on some of those parameters, right? Again, I think that process is still playing out on its own. So I don't want to jump the gun, but to kind of just take this a step back over into the service model approach, right? Cardano itself can still compete with these other chains, but it wouldn't necessarily be that all the action is actually happening directly on Cardano, right? It could be happening on the partner chains that Cardano is just providing the infrastructure or the backbone to. So that is the way that I'm kind of looking at things, speaking with, Charles, et cetera, and the focus now being on, yes, things can still happen on Cardano, but it doesn't necessarily mean that everything has to happen on Cardano. We've seen the network kind of get a lot of usage when there's been big NFT drops, and that has kind of caused some congestion. And as the network matures and we now begin to shift towards this partner chain model, you could then imagine that a lot of the load is somewhat now transferred and being done off of the main Cardano network, even though Cardano still has some sort of benefit or interconnection between some of these other partner chains where there could potentially be some of that new action going on. So I definitely think that Cardano is still a competitive play, but not in the traditional sense that just Cardano itself, right, without anybody else, is the move, right? It's going to be Cardano and all of the other partner chains that it backs that really brings Cardano to the forefront. Again, the way that I like to simplify this, and I've got two simple examples. Think of, for example, a platform like Wix or a platform like Amazon AWS. I go to Amazon AWS and they're able to give me a quote unquote container to spin up a node or an instance. And then I can do whatever else I want within that node or that instance, right? So I can bring on my own, software. I can run my own programs within that small little container. But at the end of the day, I'm relying on Amazon AWS, which is the backbone to actually run all of my infrastructure. So it's going to be the very, very similar concept with Cardano kind of being that infrastructure provider early on, at least with this partner chain model. As Minotaur and all these other things come along, we could see other networks providing and benefiting from this partner chain model as well. But at least early on, Cardano's going to get the bulk of that benefit. And then anybody else who comes and does this partner chain model on top of that, indirectly benefits Cardano. So I would definitely say that Cardano can compete. And with this brand new model, we're really going to start to see a lot of dots clicking for other people. And I think we've already seen a little bit of that. There's been stories lately about Ethereum and their development approach, right? Where there's now been some things that they're looking to do that seem to somehow eerily mimic what is being done on Cardano. We've also even had some whistleblowers as well, right, come to the light saying that, Ethereum's biggest mistake was to let Charles and Gavin Wood go, right? So I think that for a lot of people, it's finally starting to click, but it's just been a really slow and drawn out road. And so, yeah, maybe some people have gotten the liquidity early on because they've been the quickest to market, but it doesn't necessarily mean that they've marketed with the right strategy and with the right approach. And I think that Cardano has been on the complete other opposite end of that spectrum, where we've been slow to develop. But now as things are starting to click, I think that this team has been forward thinking in how Cardano can be integrated as the backbone for everything else going on in blockchain.
Yeah, some great points there. And Steve as well says about with Midnight service partner chains that speed is less of a focus or less in focus. I think, yeah, certain applications are better off on something like a partner chain or a side chain if they really need the instant transactions and then try and settle onto the main chain or roll up. We will have roll ups on Cardano. I think is it ZK Fold are looking to build roll ups on Cardano as well. So there will be lots of different options in the future. David says about the EUTXO model, and you can't fully compare the account-based model to the EUTXO model because with EVM, the account model, you can only send one asset in a transaction, where we see some transactions with Cardano where you could have 10, 20, I think even 50 different assets all in the one transaction. So it's not just this, you can't do a straight comparison with that. I think I got most of the questions there. If I missed any, let us know. Actually, I've seen Josh's name there somewhere. I see someone commented on him. Can't find his comment. But Farid, any closing thoughts with us here or any closing topics?
Yeah, no, I'll just kind of maybe give my closing thoughts here. It's always a pleasure to join you here, Paul. I definitely appreciate these chats. Not only am I able to, collaborate with your community, but also really get some of your awesome insight. You've been an OG here in this space, and I'm thankful for the opportunities to collaborate. To that end, for the general Cardano community, this is a time where we are finally starting to get some of the biggest pieces to get us off of that runway. So I think this is an opportune time for all of us to educate ourselves, learn and understand what is being built, and then really start to identify where we fit into this ecosystem. Cardano is made up of multiple pieces. I've realized very quickly that I am not a developer, and that's okay, but what I can do is try to break down some of these pieces and bring some of the content over into the community. So to anybody watching this, find what your piece is, find how you're able to contribute and really bring this message that is Cardano to the masses. And I think that over the course of the next couple of years, again, that's, I think, the key piece here. This is a long-term vision. This is not something that is going to, happen in a month. We have to really set that expectation that will all be rewarded for all of our efforts. So that said, I'm happy to just see all the progress, all the builders, and again, being able to collaborate and chat with everybody at the summit. I look forward to jumping back on and doing this again with you, Paul, in the near future.
Yeah, for sure, man. I love having these collaborations. It's I really enjoy them. I always learn a few new things from yourself and even from the comments that people put in. Hopefully, people get some value from them. Josh was in the comments there today. I think one of the next ones we do, we're going to have to try and pull in Josh and Pete into them again. I know the time zones are a little bit awkward. Pete generally gets the short end of the straw, but we'll see, can we convince him to get up early some of the weekends coming up over the next 2 or 3 weeks, maybe. And like that, we'll catch up again very soon. And I'm sure there's loads of different things we didn't cover today. But for me right now, the next few months look very exciting for what's coming to Cardano. You have the likes of Axo Trade. I think someone asked actually about a launch date. We haven't got a launch date yet. Anyone who wants to claim the tokens from the ISPO, you need to, I think there's only maybe 2 days left to do that. You do need a full KYC and everything for that. So for some people, that is a no. But if you are planning on doing it, you only have a very short period of time left. USDM launching in December, with ENCOINS bringing privacy in the next 2 weeks, less than 2 weeks' time. There's lots of different things coming. So it's a good time, I think, to be involved. Markets overall look a bit more positive. And as we go into next year, the halving for Bitcoin, that kind of stuff only brings positive sentiment throughout the crypto space. So Farid, thanks very much for joining. Appreciate your time as always. Everyone tuning in, thanks for tuning in. Like Roadmix, very welcome to the channel. Good to see you got both channels there. Anyone else, subscribe to both of us and we will keep you updated on the Cardano ecosystem. Talk soon.